Episode 21 of DAO Talk. Kyler, thank you for those beats yet again. So vibey. This is DAO Talk, your one-stop shop for everything DAOs. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Frisian.
Let's get into it. Big week for his DevCons this week. It's been a little bit slow on Twitter, but not really. There's been a lot of crazy shit that's happened. And we had our first, I don't know, what do you want to call this? DAO Talk's making waves in the community. We're helping people out. We're calling out, bad behavior when we see it, and people are responding well. So Frisian, let's break down what happened last week a little bit and then Getty's response.
We're influencing. It feels good to be a thought leader. No, for real, this is great. So we mentioned last week GFX Labs, which is led by Getty, who's a Tally Power user, awesome DAO person, awesome DeFi person. They created the first proposal for Hop Protocol, and it was like a combination of 8 proposals that already passed a social signal vote on Snapshot, and we didn't like that because then people don't really know what they're voting on. And he responded really constructively. I was like, hey, listen to the podcast. Totally hear you on the feedback. He kind of justified hey, we did this because it would have taken a really long time to submit all 8 proposals because what I've learned since about Governor, which is the protocol that Tally's on-chain voting is based on. If you a single wallet address, a single externally owned account can only create one proposal can be live at a time from that address. And that's a spam prevention measure basically, but it meant that if GFX wanted to pass all these or create all these proposals for official on-chain governance, they'd have to do it whatever the voting period was. I don't remember what it is, but let's say it's a week or 3 days, I think is the standard. Then it would have taken a minimum of 24 days to go through all 8 of them. So he said that's why he combined them. I don't think that's a good excuse, but I think, it makes sense. I think ideally, you figure out how to get them to an on-chain vote faster, one at a time after each proposal passes, but nonetheless makes sense. And then Getty said he dug in and he said the way that Hop's Governor implementation is done, it's actually possible to have multiple proposals simultaneously. So he's going to incorporate that for the future. So super awesome of Getty to listen to DAO Talk. Really appreciate that, man. And also for learning. That's what we're all here to do. I'm sure Tommy and I will do something suboptimal and people will call us out and we'll learn as well. So I really appreciate you, Getty, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Constructive criticism, just discussions. We always say, we're not here to shit on people. And, so that's something I always don't like and call out is yo, stop calling shit out without solutions, or don't just call shit out to call shit out. It's easy to do that. Super easy, man in the arena. Anybody can talk shit or call stuff out, but if it's not coming from a place of, love and constructive criticism, it's not going to be met in the way it was met, with stuff like Getty. This is how you do it, folks. So let's keep these good vibes going. Let's build together. And I think I tweeted last night, it's if the DAO space grows and we all collectively call out good behavior, incentivize better behavior, we all benefit. The space is so small now. It's not a zero-sum game. So moving right along, something from our good friend Monet Supply on Twitter, an OG Tally employee, but no more. Great tweet from him. PSA, several top DAOs have on-chain proposals pending at the moment. And if we are watching, you can see this is Tally's UI. If you go to Tally's homepage, which we will do right now, you can see exactly what we're talking about, because where you can stay up to date on all of the major on-chain DAOs and protocols that have active proposals on Tally. You can see right now there's 9 that are active: Uniswap, Gitcoin, Compound, Lil Nouns, Yam Finance, Nouns DAO, Signata DAO, never heard of that one. And then, Tally's Content Guild. Frisian, give us your thought point take on what this means. There's not much of a take here, but
yeah, no, this is connected to some tweets that Monet Supply has been making about how Tally kind of helps him stay up to date on governance. He's a major player in the governance space. He has a lot of votes delegated to him in a lot of these DAOs. And so he's always trying to be a good, governance steward and stay aware and engaged. And like just saying, Tally helped him do that. And yeah, this thread is definitely worth reading because he just like highlights each vote. In case you're interested, a lot of people hold governance power or have delegated their governance power in these DAOs. So you can check out this thread to see what's happening at Gitcoin and Uniswap and others.
There's no way to like, in order to be notified of this, you have to like actually visit the site and see it. But something, we're exploring is, potentially having notifications so you can stay up to date with these DAOs, even if, you're not necessarily a voter on them. I mean, even, and if you are as well, where, you're getting notifications of active proposals, you're staying up to date on everything. Definitely something coming down the line. It's just, another instance of things that pop up that we don't really think, are first order needs for products or product features that, make a lot of sense when they are implemented. So something as simple as notifications for, governance and voting is huge. All right, Frigid, moving right along, some drama out of the SushiSwap world. Give it to us. What's happening here?
Yeah, so this is a tweet from Muni, everyone's favorite performer couch on Twitter. Anyway, major CT figure. He's involved in a lot of these like protocols and has a lot of interesting takes. So Muni's been watching the SushiSwap vote to elect a new CEO closely. And there's a few things here. First of all, like SushiSwap doesn't actually have on-chain governance. It's a multi-sig with the executed governance where they just do snapshot votes, which is definitely not ideal for a DAO that has sort of like that much money flowing through the protocol and sort of hangs its hat on decentralization. But second of all, what Muni's really pointing to here is some of the problems with coin voting. We've talked about this at length, but basically, the sushi market cap is pretty low, and yet it's also a liquid token. There's a lot of ways to sort of like get a lot of it. And I would say like the project as a whole is in a somewhat vulnerable state right now. And as they're doing the CEO election, like it's sort of, I think what Muni's suggesting here is sort of there are some people who have accumulated a lot of sushi tokens who like have a vested interest in the outcome of this election, have kind of elected the CEO, Jared Gray. And basically Muni saying like, okay, there's whales who voted this person in, but if you scroll down, the snapshot vote, like there's tons of people who voted for different candidates, but it's just dominated by this Jared Gray at the top. And so, really pointing out some of the challenges with coin voting as a governance structure, which, we don't like the ecosystem hasn't established like a clear solution to that. Muni talks about, if you scroll down the thread, like, is there some way, to sort of like change up the voting power based on like competence? We've talked about this a lot on different episodes of DAO Talk interviews. Like, I think for a project like SushiSwap, like there really needs to be, it's so vulnerable to like these kind of economic attacks against governance. Like there needs to be some way to allocate token, like additional voting power based on like competence and vested interest in the project. And I think everyone would agree, like that's theoretically a good idea. The question is, how do you do it without corrupting the system? Because like the one benefit of token voting in its current form, it's like very simple. And I think that has a lot of benefits. So yeah, lots to explore here. But this election of a sushi CEO is kind of like, which is interesting in its own right, like CEO of SushiSwap, I don't know. But very interesting like example of token voting playing out. And then I think we're what we're also seeing is maybe some drama around the person that was ultimately elected. Yeah, and so so there's some drama with this new Jared Gray CEO. We're not gonna like cover that. This isn't like a this isn't a salacious society gossip podcast, but basically like there's like some very memeable accusations, which I don't think are true, against the CEO, but maybe some actually more serious concerns around like past involvement with projects that didn't necessarily like end well for the community. I'm not sure exactly where that's landed, but this is Joseph DeLong, who is like the former CTO of Sushi and famously sort of left, just saying, miss me yet. So yeah, the saga of SushiSwap continues. But I think really interesting example of sort of like a major event in governance and how token voting played into it.
Yeah. The SushiSwap situation with Joseph, who, if you guys don't know, you should follow him. He's a really just a great follow in general. But he was one of the first follows I made on Twitter when I got into Web3. And around that time, back in like August 2021, September 2021 is when a lot of the drama around, Sushi and him being like unjustly fired from them or whatever went down. So it's just interesting to see this come full circle. Again, like it's not like we're not going to dive into the gossip or the subplots of crypto Twitter. I think there's enough of that already out there. So if you want to learn more, everything's linked. You're watching it. You can go check out the accounts or just Google and go get the context for yourself. But from a DAO perspective, same old. Governance is kind of fucked, especially in this situation. And from my perspective, I'm thinking like, I mean, it makes sense with Sushi because Sushi like is a complete shit show. But like at this point, we're getting to the point in the narrative where it's like, hey, if something like this happens, where it's very obviously like 5 people have accumulated a ton of tokens and are controlling the vote, and it's very obviously not democratic. Why even do it? I guess because like there's no downside to it. Like at the end of the day, you're still controlling. Like you're getting the result you want to, and like no one can really do anything about it.
Well, I don't know. I think it's a little more nuanced than that, right? Like, what does democracy even mean? I mean, maybe it was democratic, right? Like the rules of their, I guess, social signal voting are that it's simple token weighted. So like, I don't know, by the rules of their DAO, like the vote was passed, right? And I think this is also, SushiSwap is a good example. Sushi is a good example of like a protocol that has various problems that it's easy to to sort of like apply all of those problems or imply that they're all because of governance when really like there's a variety of problems. So like they don't have product market fit, like in my opinion. The original like AMM protocol that they built is a fork of Uniswap. Uniswap has since released Uniswap v3, which they can't fork because Uniswap v3 has like the concentrated liquidity element has like a restrictive license on it, open source license. They can't fork that part. And so they just kind of got smoked by Uniswap v3, which is just like way more capital efficient than Uniswap v2 or SushiSwap. And then like what Joseph was trying to do at SushiSwap was build like their own version of concentrated liquidity called Trident. And they just never got it out because they couldn't, this gets maybe back to the governance thing, but like they couldn't coordinate effectively with like enough dev resources and product and organization to like actually get it out into market. And so now like that's just not going to happen with like with Joseph and probably other folks, gone. And so yeah, I think it's more complicated, but like at this point, when companies and projects get to this point in like trad world, like things tend to get a little messy as well. This is when you see like corporate raiders come in the stock market and like, or you see like a private equity firm come in and just kind of like clean up the scraps and then like squeeze extra juice out of it, which is like, I think sort of what's happening here, like loosely by analogy. It probably doesn't come with some of the like shareholder protections and stuff you see in the TradFi world. So we still need to figure that out. But I don't think it's as simple as saying like, oh, Sushi's governance is bad, that's why this is happening, right? I think there's multiple issues at play.
I guess maybe I'm placing the blame in the wrong place. It's not necessarily on, DAOs especially them that have been established and operated this way for the entire existence of the DAO to like create a new voting mechanism to stop this from happening. And it goes to, like you said, like the deeper issue of like, okay, well, what is democracy? Like maybe this was as democratic as possible. And then it comes down to like, oh, how do we get more people to participate? Because I think if more people participated, maybe, this issue wouldn't arise. So more of like a philosophical discussion.
Yeah. I think this,
bad.
I think the scarce resource in crypto and everything is sort of like attention and talent. It's like, how can you attract the most long-term focused, talented builders to your project and then keep them engaged? And so I do think that's like an important DAO problem or problem with any business, and that's I think where sushi is falling down, right? So I think that's kind of like the base layer challenge that we all need to focus on solving for our DAOs.
For sure. Okay, moving along. Bored Ape Yacht Club. SEC is looking into Yuga Labs, who is the founder of or the parent company of Bored Ape Yacht Club, on their distribution of ApeCoin. Like for me, for instance, this back when I was super deep in the NFT world, this kept like ApeCoin, which is their token, kept getting delayed, and the narrative around it was, hey, they're doing this the right way. They've consulted with lawyers. They have a great legal team. This is going to be all legal and legal in the eyes of the SEC. And now, 6-7 months later, the SEC is looking into this whole thing. So like, what's actually happening here? Because to me, I thought this was all well and good.
Yeah, this is a good time to remind everyone that Tommy and I are very, very far from being lawyers. And if you want some high quality content from a lawyer, you can check out our interview with Ross that came out on Monday, who's an awesome DAO builder and Solidity dev and lawyer. But nonetheless, we'll give our takes. So like, I think first of all, this is a quote unquote probe, which like, I don't know what that means. And like the SEC seems to have been like launching probes into like mini projects and protocols and teams since Gensler took the helm. So like, especially with sort of like the recent, actions of Gensler, where he like took action against Kim Kardashian, which was probably appropriate, but then like immediately went on CNBC and made like an influencer viral, tried to make like an influencer viral video about it. It's hard not to see this as like at least partially motivated by headlines. So I'll just like start with that take. But I would also say like, I mean, look, it's tricky, right? Like, what is like the main narrative that people use to pump Bored Ape Yacht Club? It's like Yuga Labs is the best team. So like, I mean, if like, the definition of a security is that, you're sort of like relying on the efforts of someone else to make the price go up. I mean, you could sort of see how like the SEC would be attracted to this one. And I think it's like easier to sort of get there with the ApeCoin governance token and also like the whole land sale thing they did, and probably easier to like poke holes in the in the sort of claim that that is not a security. So I think that seems to be more where this is pointed. I have never like dug deep into the ApeCoin DAO, into the Bored Ape Yacht Club's DAO, but I assume the SEC is looking into areas where, they sort of are claiming to be decentralized, and the SEC may disagree with that. One thing that I think is interesting about this is like, on the one hand, this is like a headline opportunity for the SEC, but also this is like one of the most well-funded projects in the space. And they, to your point, they do have a huge number of lawyers. They're backed by heavily by A16Z that has like a huge legal team. So I don't know, like it's hard not to see this turn into another like a Ripple type situation where the SEC's been like battling them for years and it's not looking good, even though Ripple, I don't know, I kind of think it's a security. The SEC looks like they're going to lose. So yeah, I question the wisdom of this from the SEC, but obviously it's something we should all be watching with interest because of the precedent it could set around NFTs and securities and stuff like that.
Yeah, interesting for sure. Like this is, I mean, in regards to Ripple, maybe I was just not around at that time, but like this feels much more like everyone like kind of associates crypto with like Bitcoin and Bored Apes, like NFTs, maybe Ethereum too, starting now, but like Bored Apes is kind of like even more than CryptoPunks, like the thing everyone thinks about if you're like a normie. So I saw a tweet earlier this week. I'm going to butcher it, but it was just mainly like the SEC doesn't really have much of a like no one can really predict who they're going to go after. They just seem like they're going after people that made money very loudly and very much in the mainstream. Like, for instance, with the Kim Kardashian thing, I don't think they necessarily care so much about like, I think they're more worried about like a PR win than anything. And that's probably a very like non-nuanced take, but just from this perspective, it makes more sense. Like, they're going after the big boy. But like you said, I think this could turn into something that maybe if Yuga did it correctly, like this could be, a big L for the SEC. I mean, I hope so, assuming everything's legal. But we'll see what happens with that. Again, we are not lawyers, and this is not a super educated take. So please go check out the Ross interview and check out Ross on Twitter, because not only is he a great legal mind, but he also communicates a lot with legal minds and retweets a lot of really good resources. So again, we're just here to, have our thought boy take and keep you updated with the news. But
yeah, it's worth popping up in the next tweet just because it illustrates, like, I don't know.
Is that the Dudas tweet?
Yeah, where
it got deleted.
Oh, did he delete it? Okay.
What was it?
Yeah, so Mike Dudas, who's like a big Web3 investor, invests a lot in token projects. He just tweets like, I wouldn't launch a token right now, which is kind of ironic coming from him because he like was investing in tokens. But anyway, clearly, yeah, ended up regretting the take because he deleted it. But like, this is where there's just going to be continued FUD. So we had the CFTC thing where they like charged the voters in the DAO. We talked about that at length, and now we have this being, SEC being like, oh, this project that tried to make sure their like voting token wasn't a security, maybe is a security because we're probing. So I think, yeah, the FUD will continue until morale improves. But I think we're going to continue to see like, increasing pressure on projects to like really be thoughtful about how decentralized their DAO is, and also try to comply as much as they can with nation state regulation. So keep an eye out on that going forward. But I think DAOs will find a way. We just got to get through this process and get to like more regulatory clarity, which I think we will get there.
Absolutely. All right, let's run through some DAO hot takes real quick. We got 3 kind of big updates. All right, some crazy news from a Solana DAO. So hacker exploits this. What is it? What is the actual protocol? Do you know?
Yeah, so Mango Markets is a borrow lend. I think it's a borrow lend protocol on Solana. It's one of like the longest standing, biggest, most important DeFi protocols on Solana. It's like foundational DeFi infrastructure for Solana. And the hacker executed sort of a classic attack where some relatively illiquid collateral got added, and they used that to like, they manipulated the oracle to like massively drive up the price of that illiquid collateral, which then allowed them to like extract a bunch of value from the protocol and then collapse the value of said collateral that they borrowed against. And then where it got really interesting from a DAO perspective is they then as a result of that attack, had a ton of Mango tokens and submitted a proposal in the forums, and looks like on whatever Solana's version of Snapshot is, to like let them sort of like keep some of the money, but then like repay some of it with the money that the hacker stole, which is like, by the way, also again, not lawyers, but like terrible advice. This is like if you're gonna commit like potential crime, like just, yeah, this is not a good way to go about fixing the situation. But multiple interesting governance angles here. Number one, like the governance of Mango should be able to mitigate the risk of adding this type of a liquid collateral, this is where this next tweet from Spreek comes in. It's like it's not worth it to add some like potentially questionable collateral to your borrow lend protocol. And that's like a big part of what the governance process is for. This is a big part of governance, like at Maker and Compound, is around like really trying to mitigate risk by requiring, governance to actually add collateral. So that's one. And then two is like, we go back to the coin voting thing, right? So now this person basically has governance control of Mango because of all the Mango that they sort of like attacked and took from the protocol, and now they have total control of governance. So, you know, that's another example of where it can be like a challenge to have this sort of like financialized like token voting system. So yeah, we'll see where it goes from here, but certainly an interesting event in the DeFi and DAO world.
I can't believe he voted. I don't know. It's just wild to me. All right, moving along. Last take from Punk 4156. If you're not familiar, we've talked about him previously on the podcast. Big Nouns guy. Is he one of the founders of Nouns, or they one of the founders of Nouns?
I'm not sure if he's a founder or just like someone who has gotten really, really involved in the protocol, but he's definitely, a good resource on what's happening in Nouns DAO world.
Yeah, this tweet is great. I've been thinking about, this is one of those tweets where like I read it and I've been thinking about it all week. Best mental model for engaging with a Nounish DAO right now is that it's more like a subreddit than a company. Getting on the front page equals getting your proposal funded. Your account can be anon, but to get on the front page, you must achieve a certain amount of momentum. This momentum arises not just from capturing the attention of one or two participants, but from capturing the attention of a significant percentage of participants simultaneously. If people are excited about your proposal, you will feel it. And if they're not excited, they won't necessarily downvote you, but you won't get any upvotes either. If you feel like you're constantly battling for attention and relevancy, then maybe it's time to try submitting a different post or posting on a different subreddit. The OG Nouns treasury is perhaps analogous to the pretty much the front page of Reddit, the most difficult front page to land, but the highest reward if you can make it. Remember, it's not the only place you can post, and your chances of landing on the front page are much higher once you understand the culture and the conventions of the platform. I fucking love that. That's why I read the entire thread. Now like Nouns, the OG Nouns treasury is the most well funded, tens of millions of dollars, and then you're going to get the most money from them. But there's a lot of Nouns forks more and more every day that you can get funded that are much more easier to get into. That's not to say the main Nouns DAO page is impossible. It's just your idea is going to have to be much more revolutionary, and it's going to have to capture the attention of the team much easier than the other. It's kind of just like, if your idea is better, it's maybe not necessarily better if it's more attention grabbing and more in the mainstream and the zeitgeist, it's probably going to get funded from the OG Nouns versus, some of the smaller Nouns DAO platforms.
Oh yeah. This is a great how-to on how to like break in to a major DAO, which I think a lot of our listeners and colleagues at Content Guild and people who work with Italia like are kind of trying to do that, right? Like, how do you find a DAO that's right for you? And then how do you ultimately become a contributor, right? This is a good formula, a good way to think about it.
Yeah, something I've learned a lot from Frisian is like, and I'm not going to give away the secrets, but if you listen to DAO Talk a lot, you can figure it out. Like, how do you get involved in DAOs? There's not really necessarily a playbook. It's kind of like, you kind of have to social engineer your way into it. And I think if like, the Jack Butcher visualized value, like permissionless apprenticeship, like you just got to build and show that you're capable of contributing to the DAO. And then that's how you get rewarded. I mean, that's what makes kind of Web3 so fun for me, is like it's reputation based. No one really cares, like the thread says, like you can be anon or docs, but it's more about what you can contribute and what you can give versus, what you've done in the past, like in regards to like, oh, you work for this company, or you went to this school, or you did this, or you're from here. It's completely based on what can you contribute now and what's your reputation of contribution. So that's what I fucking love about, working in the DAO ecosystem. Let's end on the meme of the week. It has to do with Mango. Here it is. Frisian never sees the meme of the week. So it's the Mango protocol. And it's the I'm the captain now meme. Look at me. And it's the Mango DAO and Mango hacker. I'm the DAO now.
This is so funny because it's so true. He literally became the DAO.
He's like, let me ask the DAO to forgive myself of my sins. Oh, wait, I am the DAO. I vote yes, forgive myself of the sins. Please don't put me in jail. Oh, cool. Instantly fixed.
Dude, I just imagine this hacker as like some 19-year-old genius, like it's like they're smart enough to figure out how to like break the Mango protocol and take all the money, and then smart enough to figure out how to use the DAO, but then what they lack is judgment, where they're like, wait, but this will make me even more likely to go to prison. Damn it. Oh, man. Never change crypto.
I love it. All right. That's been episode 21 of DAO Talk. Make sure to go subscribe at daotalk.substack.com if you want to get everything we talked about, links, extra links, text descriptions, 5-minute breakdown of this entire podcast in your inbox on Monday or sometimes Tuesday mornings. Go subscribe there. Check out Content Guild at Content Guild XYZ. Check out Tally at Tally XYZ on Twitter. DM me or Frisian on Twitter. Talk about us on Twitter. We don't care. We are wide open. We love communicating with our DAO Talk fans. Other than that, Kyler, take us out. Feel the beat. Frisian, I'll see you next week. Any day now. Any day now. This could be the last episode as Frisian goes on parental leave. So we're looking forward to bringing you some awesome co-hosts from the DAO Talk community. And hopefully I'll see you next week, Frisian. If not, it's been an honor. Peace.
Soon, baby Frisian. Soon TM. Give him a low pudgy right away. Peace.